Hello everybody, Timothy Bailey from Project Learn and our video for today. Today we're going to start looking at a book called Dialogs for Everyday Use. So this is video number 1. This book is all about really how we use English in our daily lives, which is sometimes the same, but sometimes different from how we learn it in a textbook and then in the classroom. That language is also different depending on where, when, or how we're speaking, right? The setting, the context is a word that we have used. So let's go ahead and jump in. And we're going to start by looking at a very brief formal greeting, right? And a farewell, right? This is very simple. You might use something like this when you see a friend or a classmate or somebody. So here we have two people, Paul and Dawn. And I'll read it once here to start. Hello, how are you? Fine, thank you. How are you? Fine, thanks. That's the bus sound effect. Oh, excuse me, here's my bus. Goodbye, goodbye. Okay, so this one, right, first of all, let's think about where we are. These are probably two friends, two people who somehow know each other. We don't do this for strangers usually. Although certainly if you're standing waiting for the bus long enough, you might say hello, you might ask how are you. But let's imagine Paul and Dawn somehow know each other, right? So they are friendly. They have a sort of friendship, perhaps. Now, when they're talking, this setting, waiting for the bus, is always going to be informal when we're comparing it to something like a speech or a presentation that you might do. Okay, so that's a different kind of formality. But still here there is some formalness that you'll see in a minute that we don't use really that often in other situations. Right? So for this situation, hello, how are you? Here we might stress the word are. How are you? Right? Maybe I'm surprised a little bit to see Dawn. I'm Paul, right? Hello, how are you, right? Don then is going to stress a different word. Right? He's replying to me, and so he's not going to stress the are, he's going to stress the part that's about me. So, how are you? Okay? And again, when we're stressing words, we don't do it severely or greatly usually. It's very subtle. Subtle means that it's sometimes hard to detect, hard to hear. Hello, how are you? Fine, thank you. How are you? Okay? So maybe I don't want to talk about me necessarily. I want to know how you are. Right? And Paul says, fine, thanks. Okay? So just pretty straight, fine, thanks. And it stops. Of course, then we hear the bus, and then Paul has to leave. Oh, excuse me. Here's my bus. Goodbye. Goodbye. Okay? Using words such as hello. Hello is more formal than what we will see in a minute. Okay? So why would you use hello? Well, English and American society in general doesn't have as much formal and informal rules as other countries. Right? In other countries and cultures, you need to use certain words depending on who you're talking to. But you could do that here. Perhaps if it is your teacher or an older person that you know or a supervisor at your job, perhaps you want to be more formal, so you say hello. You also might say thank you. Thank you is the longer version. We'll see the other one here shortly, right? So thank you, again, for different kinds of people that we're talking to. Also, goodbye. Goodbye is a more formal farewell. Right? Farewell is what we say when we are leaving. Greeting when we see someone, we meet someone. Farewell when we are leaving. So hello, thank you, goodbye, great words to use, right? And there's nothing wrong with using them. So there's nothing wrong with using formal language such as this. Another thing we will typically do, a contraction is when we take two words and we put them together. There is one here, right? Here's. But typically in more formal speech, we use uncontracted words. And one we're going to see is this in the next slide. So instead of hower, right, which you will see, we're going to use both words, how, are. So things like I am, I'm, we are, we're, right? In more formal speech, both of this kind and speeches or presentations, you're going to break that word up into its two words. Okay? So some elements of formal language, even in an informal situation at the bus stop or the bus station. Let's go ahead and look at some informal greetings and farewells. Here we have a conversation between Dick and Helen. Hi, how are you? Fine, thanks. And you? Just fine. Where are you going? To the library. Okay, I'll see you later. So long. So long. Some elements that make this more informal, using hi, right, instead of hello. We usually use this for people who are sort of on our peer level, same age, same sort of status, so not like the manager and an employee, right, but two managers or two employees, for example. Thanks. Thanks is very informal. The formal, thank you. And notice that for informal language, it's almost always shorter than formal language. We don't use as many words. We don't use words that are as big. So hello, longer, hi, shorter. Thank you, two words. Longer, thanks, one word, and shorter. Informal language, we also use incomplete sentences. Right? Here we're missing the subjects. Right? How are you? Fine, thanks. Not I am fine. Right? Or I am just fine. Right? Where are you going? Helen does not say I am going to the library. Right? And again, this is the way we use language. When you're learning language, your English teacher, right, wants you to say, I am going to the library. And that's good, right? It's good for you to practice using and to create complete sentences. As your English improves and you become more fluent, you'll start to do this by yourself. Okay, also very informal, right? Okay. Okay means a variety of things, but basically it can mean good, it can mean all right, right? So here, Helen says that she is going to the library. Dick says, okay, right, great, good, right? I understand. Sort of all of that in okay. So long, also a very informal version of goodbye. Now, I thought that this conversation wasn't even as informal as probably what you would hear in the real world. I think it would sound even more informal as we were speaking. And I tried to make that for you here. So here's the original one that we took from the book. And here's the one that I sort of redid. And I tried to make it represent also how things will sound, even though I did that when I was reading a little bit. So let's go ahead and start with Dick here. Hi, how are you? Fine, thanks. You? Fine. Where are you going? To the library. Okay, see you later. Later. Now here, I think it's perhaps easy to see that Dick and Helen are certainly friendly, just like in the previous conversation. They know each other. They're not a manager and an employee or any kind of structured leveled relationship like that. Let's start at the beginning. So Dick still says hi. What we would normally say in conversation is the contraction. How are you? Right? This is are. This tells us we're missing a letter or some letters. So how are you? This is very common for this question. How are you? Now, whether the person's saying it or it's just hard to hear the R, right, it's a little bit hard to tell. But for many people, if you're practicing your listening, it'll sound like, how are you? Helen says, fine, thanks. You? We might say and you, but I think a lot of times we just use the word by itself and we raise it sort of at the end. You? Right? You? it sort of goes up at the end. That's the signal for Dick here that Helen is asking a question, not like just saying you, right? As if we were pointing this, you, right? Come here, right? She's saying you, how are you? Okay. Just fine, we could say. I think we would just probably say fine, right? Right? Just like Helen did, right? Fine, fine. This one often will change. So when we're saying this expression, where are you, right? The R often just goes away completely. And if you remember your grammar, it causes a problem technically because we don't have a verb here, right, for this. We don't have our be verb. So where you, not all the time. Please do not replace you with ya every time, right? But as you listen to native English speakers, you will probably hear that, right? Yeah. What do you think? Do you like it? Where are you going? Okay. So we don't do it all the time. We sort of run in between informal and formal, depending on the person, depending on the individual. But you might hear where you going. And again, for ing verbs, the G often, not always, disappears. So where are you going? Okay. Again, don't do that all the time. Don't do it for every ing verb. We do not do that. But sometimes, and for expressions that we use repeatedly, frequent, like where you going, how you doing, we will do that often. To the library? Okay. See you later. Right. Again, we'll probably drop the subject, so the I will disappear. The auxiliary verb, right, will probably disappear. And the you, again, might change to ya instead of you. Right. And I took so long out of here because so long and see you later, really the same sort of idea, right? So we may or may not say that. And I thought down here, a good way to informally say goodbye is just later, right? It means the same thing as see you later, just later. Later, okay? Very informal. So we've gone from pretty informal here, and I've made it even more informal. Some elements that you might hear. I hope this was interesting, looking at how language is really used in the real world out there. Is helpful for your practice of English and for listening to what people are saying. Here are a couple very good websites with both formal and informal English. This one is particularly looking at the vocabulary. We have a lot of simpler, sort of lower level vocabulary words that we use in an informal way. And then the formal tend to be more academic words. So if you're looking to increase the level of your vocabulary, this website certainly will have a lot of words for that. I hope it was interesting and helpful. Next time you go out there, think about the language that you're hearing. Is it formal? Is it informal? And what should I say? Hello? Hi? Goodbye? Later.